Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Welcome to another Find the Edge production for the Premier League Cricket Club. Connecting players and coaches, clubs and leagues, volunteers and supporters alike, you're in the right place for the best of the 33 ECB Premier Leagues and the 20 NCCA counties, bringing you the stories, the stats and the standout performances that make this game great. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to both our Premier League and NCCA shows so you don't miss any episodes. Now, shall we get stuck in? So, welcome everybody to the Premier League Cricket Show, and we're back with the Overthrow. It's time, the season has finished, that we started talking about cricket, but just in a different way, I think, Hugh, isn't it, mate?
It's more relaxed.
Yeah.
And do you know what? It's potentially more fun. So there we go.
Yeah, we have said that already, haven't we? We definitely think the winter's almost more fun than the season because we haven't just got that week in, week out all the time, have we?
No. And everything's, you know, that anxiety, that cricket anxiety of actually, I've got to perform, I've got to do this. You know, this bowler's going to run at me. It's all gone. So you remember all the good stuff and the positives of cricket, and you forget all the negatives. And Joe here, we don't have people steaming in at 90 mile an hour at us, so I don't have that anxiety. But I suspect, Joe, you might.
Absolutely. Hey, let's introduce our guest. I'm going to introduce him in a slightly different way. And Hugh and I are going to have a very smug look on our face.
Yes.
In the cricket paper on the 6th of October 2024, the following words were used, written by Mr. Hugh Newsome. Farsley's Lincolnshire all-rounder, Pocklington, has gradually been working his way up the batting order both for club and county, and he now looks to have found his home opening the batting. So for anyone who hasn't guessed, joining us today, Mr. Joe Pocklington. How are you doing, mate?
Very well, guys. Thank you for having me.
No, absolute pleasure. And I'm going to finish that intro with the last words of that paragraph from you. Players develop at different rates, and at just 23 years old, this Sussex-born left-hander might be worth another look from the professional game.
And there's a bit about your bowling as well, Joe. It wasn't just about your batting, because I think not only were you, I think, second in the country last year in terms of ECB Premier League runs scored, but 54 wickets at 21, top of the Bradford League. Is that right?
Yep, sounds about right.
Decent summer.
It was a good summer. Yeah, it was a summer that I, much to my misfortune, chased to have again at the start of this year, and set myself up for failure trying to replicate that. But it was, it was an awesome summer, and one that I'll look back on fondly because it was definitely something that sort of put me on the map, and everything sort of that I touched turned to gold, so to speak, and it was just one of those summers where runs and wickets were just flowing all summer long.
Well, we've got to say it didn't turn to gold in the end, because just a couple of weeks ago it's turned green at the end of the day, hasn't it? And we've seen a number of people get contracts this year, Hugh and I, and every time we see them, we've got this little grin on our face that goes, there's another one we've mentioned.
Yeah, or interviewed. So
it's fair to say, Joe, that when we saw yours, we had the biggest grin of the lot.
Yeah.
And if I told you, Joe, that in that same article last year, we also mentioned Shafi Ghaffari, He's done all right and got on to the Durham Bucks. And somebody called Thomas Roux, who's just been picked for England Lions. So, I mean, we seem to be able to pick these people from the Premier League, full stop, end of story. And I think that's the key for us in talking about your journey, Joe, because you spent a good few years now up in Leeds playing for Farsley in the Bradford League.
Yeah, I think firstly, I just want to say you're making a good pitch for being chairman of selectors across the country for that sort of record.
I'm glad I'm recording this, Hugh.
Yeah, I think moving up to Leeds, firstly for uni and then making my cricket full-time up there for Farsley was probably one of the best decisions I made in terms of just on a purely cricketing decision. It put me in the shop window for not just Yorkshire, but all the counties that are nearby. You've probably got 5 or 6 different counties within a couple-hour drive. It was different cricket. I was away from home, out of my comfort zone. It was very competitive cricket. I think anyone that plays in that league is very quick to tell you that whilst the standard might peak and trough over the years, the competitiveness never will. And that sense of community and real sort of passion for the game is always there. And that's something that I was like, I loved it as soon as I started. I loved how serious it was taken, how professional it was. And like I said, just how central cricket was to people's everyday lives in that part of the world. And it was a decision that I'm very glad I took. And there's a lot of people at Farsley that I've got to thank for helping me along the way, because it was, it's been great. And I'm glad that I'm going to be got the opportunity to carry on playing there as well for next year in and around my commitment. So yeah, it's the least I can do. I think it's a great place to play. And like I said, got lots to thank them for helping me sort of arrive as a very wet behind the ears 21-year-old, I think I was, and then leave now still a bit immature, but at least better at cricket.
So when you made that uni decision, were you actually making a cricket decision and then uni was sort of tagged on? How did that work?
It was a difficult one. I definitely wanted to prioritise a place where uni was good and cricket was good, and then that basically leaves you with about 4 places that you could go to. So I was weighing up I was never good enough to think about Oxbridge, so then it just left me with Durham, Exeter, Loughborough and Leeds, and I visited all of them, and Leeds was the place that basically seemed the most fun to be, and on top of that the cricket was awesome, and not to mention that it's also a pretty good university as well, so it sort of ticked all those boxes.
How does the cricket work? It's not something I'm particularly familiar with, the university cricket. We've obviously Loughborough, we've got the setup down there, but you mix with Bradford Uni. I assume Leeds Met, or I forget what it's Leeds Met's called these days, but the unis they come together and run a combined cricket program. Yeah,
so it's like you say, it's Bradford, although their involvement has sort of waned over the past couple of years. Uni of Leeds and Leeds Beckett, so it's run. I wouldn't want to say it's like that. It's joined together. It's almost like a separate pathway that you trial for, but all 3 unis put money into, and then that's run by a man called Andrew Lawson, who was my coach for a few years. He's been doing that, I think, since about 2011, 2012.
Who is now a national winning coach.
Yes. So that program there.
Farnley's coach, you.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. I forgot he's been doing that. He's done all right there, hasn't he?
He has, yes.
So yeah, that's just a program where you trial and sort of basically trials have just finished for this year's program this time of year. Try and get them outdoors if we can, and then it's if you're selected, it's into a winter program that starts in November, and it's just the best cricketers from those 3 unis.
Yeah, and then you play right in the middle of exams and wreck your university degree. Is that how it works?
Yeah, there's a lot of stressed lads kicking about at motorway services during that period, trying to revise and get coursework deadlines met and whatnot.
I bet there is. Yeah. There's a long way. And so before that, I've been having a nosy. Your play.cricket.com.au stats. A trip over to play for Eastern Suburbs, was it, in Sydney?
That was first time round in 2019.
And then Gordon. So before uni, you had a stint. And then post university, another stint. How's that shaped things for you?
I think the first one was much more like formative from a life perspective. 5 years in a very comfortable experience at school, and then being chucked out into the wild world. Not that I was chucked into any sort of slum. I was managed to land in eastern suburbs, one of the nicest parts of Sydney. But in terms of getting out and seeing the world and fending for myself a bit, I think that's what was most formative for me. Obviously, it was good from a cricket perspective, but I think that sort of just seeing the world was what it was really good for. Whereas this time that I've just spent, this winter just gone for Gordon was like sort of, I'd say I met a few more people cricketing wise that I was able to learn from. I sort of had a bit more of awareness in my game, maybe, that sort of I was able to take on new ideas a bit more. I was a bit more sure of myself, so it felt like I could really chuck myself into games, be as competitive as I could. And I feel like that sort of competitiveness and that sort of seriousness that you get in grade cricket over there really benefited me playing wise. And that, yeah, so both two very good experiences, two very different experiences. But yeah, very, very, very helpful in my sort of journey.
Going back to the very beginning, though, Joe, are you a cricketing family? Where did it all start in Sussex? Because we are going to ask you the obvious question at one point, which is Sussex Premier League versus Bradford Premier League. We'll come to that. But were you a cricketing family down there, and that's how it all started?
Cricketing, yes. I don't want to speak ill of my dad and granddad, who are both cricket fans, but I wouldn't say of any sort of massive pedigree. But I guess when they just both have such a pure love for the game and watching it, and Dad, they both were just village cricketers, always playing in the Sussex area. But it was just a case of, right, here's a bat and a ball, you play, you go. My granddad was a Surrey member for years. He grew up in London and then moved down to Sussex. So the first ever game of cricket I watched was a championship game at the Oval. I must have been 7 or 8 years old. I remember getting big Andre Nell's autograph. And so, yeah, it wasn't really like a cricketing family in the performance sense, but just sort of cricketing fans who just chucked me into the cricketing world from a very young age. And and for that is basically why I've always been in and around a cricket field. And
so when you started in that sort of cricketing sphere, was it batting? Was it bowling? Was it fast bowling? Was it spinning? What did and you just mentioned Andre Nell. Was that one of your heroes early doors? All of a sudden, you want to go bowling like Andre Nell. You've got the height for it, haven't you?
I think I tried to bowl seam until I was about 8 years old, and then I realised that I was weak as anything. I couldn't get the ball down there, so I started bowling spin instead. I wouldn't say Andre Nell was a cricketing hero. It's just that's something that stuck in my mind as a 7-year-old, getting an autograph from someone who seemed way too big to be a human being.
He is, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I think when I first started, it was just like anyone, you're playing in the garden, and then before you know it, you're down at the local club, and you're trying to just play as much as you can. There was no sort of. It was sometimes I'd run up a ball spin, sometimes I'd run up ball seam, sometimes I'd try and whack it out of the ground. The only thing that was certain was that I was left-handed at both, so I stuck with that throughout.
Yeah,
just your Sussex pathway, Jane, onto the Sussex pathway as a youngster, and for someone who finished second in ECB Premier League run scoring, you weren't exactly used as a batter back then, and this is one of the frustrations that I hear around the pathways and things that people get pigeonholed very early, and I think you were batting 11-10 for Sussex, it seems, on these stats that I've been able to look at. And then the year later, you're playing and batting in the Sussex Premier League. How has the batter emerged out of the left arm spinner?
It's a good question. I think as a 10, 11, 12-year-old, those first few years on the pathway, I think the guys just really liked what they saw as a spinner. And I sort of, that didn't work in my favour. I came through an age group where we had lots of batting talent. So it was sort of the only spot for me was to play as a spinner. And then my batting slowly improved. I don't think I was actually very good at that age, but certainly sort of had an ability to hit the ball, but wouldn't say much more of a technique. And then it wasn't really until I got to Eastbourne College where, under the sort of guise of Rob Farsley, that I sort of to take my batting a bit more seriously. In my first year there, realised oh yeah, I can actually bat a bit. I took myself a bit more seriously, and then it was just a very slow, steady progression up the order from sort of 10, 11 to 8, 9. I remember one time having the biggest smile on my face at an under 14s game because I was batting 7 for Sussex. And it just slowly sort of, like, I don't know, just got my way up there. And then it wasn't until, I think it was my last year for Eastbourne, so 22 summer, Rob, my same coach, rang me up and said, why the hell are you batting 5 in the Premier League? And I was like, oh, what, 5? Like, that's a perfectly respectable number to bat, is it not? And he was like, get a grip. If you want to play professional cricket, you can't bat there. Like, no one's going to have a look at someone who bats 5 in the Premier League, least of all someone who averages about 30 that year. So I thought, I'm naturally a bit affronted by something like that to start with. And then when I moved up to Farsley, it was like, right, 1 year or a couple of years of batting 5 or 6 again, and nothing really changing with with any sort of my opportunities to Sussex stopped. My ability to try and break in at Yorkshire or anything was going nowhere. So I spoke to our captain that winter, was like, right, I'm going to open, and I'm going to do it. I really want to do it. And he was like, sure, let's have a crack at it. And that was last year. So it wasn't until any sort of bloody mindedness that I really took my batting seriously, because I realised that if you're going to be taken seriously as a batter, it's not like a bowler who, if you spin the ball miles or you swing it or you bowl quick, your stats are almost irrelevant. As a batter, it's basically, unless you've got a weight of runs, we're probably not going to take you seriously. And it was that sort of decision that I think, I'm pretty glad I did that. It was probably a bit rude how I just said, no, I'm opening the batting, but I did it, and it sort of paid off, I think.
It did. It paid off. Let me ask a question on that, though, and Hugh'll know where I'm going with this. Do you think when you do that little bit of second team cricket here and try and get through the ranks here and there, one of the things we've noted a lot is we've seen players like Ollie Sutton from Formby, who's an opening bat at number 9 for Lancashire. We've seen Johnny Connell, who you'll know from Berkshire, bat at number 8 for Essex in the 2s. Do you think there's an level in the county game where they've gone, we're going to give him a go, but we're not going to put him right up there straight away?
I think so. I think each county will manage their second team differently. Some will say it's our pros get first preference no matter what, and then trialists and academy lads filter around, and you can understand that approach. Like, you're trying to get your staff ready for any sort of action in the first team. Yeah. Whereas other counties will be a bit more sort of open-minded, and they'll say, right, well, you're an opening batter, we'll open with you. And you can understand both sides, can't you? I think that it's just, sometimes it is the nature of the beast that once you're in that door, doesn't mean that you go straight to the top. You're back at the bottom of the pile again, and you just got to
take that duty.
Yeah, prove people wrong of why about an 8 or 9, and then go through. I know that Ollie Sutton's more than capable of the bat, and I've actually sort of seen that myself. Someone like him, you think, why are you batting at 7 or 8? But it is just sort of, I guess, a reflection of both the strength, the depth in that sort of cricket, but also the maybe small bits of politics or team selection that come into play with that.
Yeah, and it is very noticeable. Hugh very pointedly last season did point out that you changed your position in the order, and all of a sudden we saw this, and that was something you picked up on very early on, wasn't it, Hugh?
Yeah, which I think it was, when you're looking at stats, you're looking at, I don't know, players from Adam, and you're looking at potentially ones that are going to progress, and people's stats leaping. You can see it, and you pick it out and go, okay, well, what has changed? And in your case, it was that batting order position. It seemed to be that every time you went up the order, you'd gone from 7, I think, up to the top. Your batting had improved, and that's that trajectory you're looking for. To say, right, who's this lad? And I'm not necessarily thinking from a professional point of view. I'm thinking from, right, who's a gun Premier League player that's going to be on our radar for years to come. And it's that trajectory that you followed. When you went up the top, did the game become simpler? What was the difference?
I think there are a few differences. I think over that winter in particular, I had known that I was going to be opening the batting, so taking a keen view to make sure I was practicing against new ball, really work on technical stuff in the UCC training. And then there was the sort of gameplay aspect of it, where in league cricket very often most teams will challenge you with a couple of good opening bowlers, and then it's either to seamers you can go after or spinners that you can go after. And I found that that sort of played into my strengths a bit. Like starting against Spin was something that I found pretty difficult. Whereas when I had that game management of like, right, well, I'll get through the opening period and then cash in. That's a better way of me going about it, and that suited my game a bit more. I think that technically, I've got a pretty simple technique, so it's not like I need to worry too much about, I don't know, getting out in certain ways against a new ball. It's more like a mental aspect of like, right, I've got 50 overs to bat here. I'm going to treat myself like a batter, and I'm going to do myself justice and basically just bat as long as I can, and bat with intent. And it was that sort of, both that sort of technical improvement, but also that, I think that mental change was probably the biggest, just taking that responsibility with it, like really being like, right, well, it's not like I'm batting for a draw or anything, but it's like, you're not getting me out. I'm going to bat like a proper batter. I'm going to try and assess the risk as much as I can and take myself seriously, basically, rather than being someone who come in at 6 and try and hit every ball at the park, which is what I did probably from the ages of 16 to 21. I was like, right, I want to be a pro, and proving them that I'm a proper batter, this is the way to do it. So it was, it was both technical and mental, but probably that mental that had the biggest impact.
Yeah, and I think one of the keys that for me there is when you see you playing for Farsley in 2023 in the Bradford League, you're averaging 28, but we know you're batting down the order there. So if you are coming in, you're coming in late, you haven't got time, you've got to just go at it because it's a 50 over game. The moment you step forward and you say to your skipper, Ben, I'm opening, straight away, then you've got time to get in, and you scored a double 100 that year, and you went from 28 to 64 averaging with Farsley. I mean, anyone who doesn't get noticed doing that, there's got to be a reason behind it, and you've just explained them perfectly, I think.
Yeah, thank you. I was a bit embarrassed it was 28 the year before, to be honest. That's the thing I'm most scared about.
Was it that bad? Well, you've got a strong skipper at Farsley, though, in Ben Wright as well. And, he's a renowned national counties player as well. He's a strong skipper, strong batter. How did that conversation go with Ben in terms of, listen, I'm telling you what I'm doing?
It went okay, mainly for one reason. And that was that because we had lost a couple seamers, Ben knew that he was going to have a bit more of a role with the ball.
Okay.
So he was like, I don't want to open the batting having bowled 10 overs or so. So it worked a bit in that regard, but he probably was in truth eyeing a couple other people to open the batting. So I definitely gave him a bit of a headache when I said, look, I want to do it. And he was like, clearly a bit hesitant because I've not done it much before. But it didn't go too badly, but I certainly was a bit, what's the word, just straight talking, I guess, saying, look, I need to do this, I want to do it. And thankfully he obliged.
And you did that before you went to Australia, by the sounds of things. It sounds like you had that conversation before you went away for the winter.
Oh, that was actually the winter before, so that was my final year of uni.
Yeah. And you come back then, you've had an outstanding year in 2024 for Farsley, and everything trajectory-wise, one of those words I struggle with, is just going in that right direction. Did you then start to feel, hang on a minute, this is really starting to click now. Now I can look at those 2 games, the trials, and did it just feel different for you?
I definitely felt a better player, but ultimately I didn't really get any opportunity for the entirety of that summer. I think I played 2 twos games very much as a fill-in. One of them might as well have not turned up, and the second one went really well, but it was in isolation. So regardless of how I was performing on a Saturday, it felt like I wasn't really going anywhere, to be honest. If you look at my exchange of messages with Tom Smith over that summer, the Yorkshire Twos coach, it was like, is there space for me in a game? Sorry, mate, not this week. Probably about 10 times throughout that summer. So whilst I felt like a better player, I didn't really feel like didn't feel the benefits of it, because it felt like I wasn't really going anywhere. So it was a bit of a weird position to be in, feeling like nothing was coming of being a better player, but I just sort of was like, well, I'm going to Australia, fresh start, and come back next year.
Big news. Sephora is now on Uber Eats. So if you find yourself facing a beauty emergency, like needing a last-minute gift, or you're just out of your favorite mascara, again, don't panic. We got you. Order now and get $10 off on Sephora orders of $50 or more on the Uber Eats app. Order now. Offer ends October 30th. 1 order per customer. Additional terms apply. See app for availability. Delivery fees may apply.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
So what happened in terms of your twos get opportunities this year? I mean, we've seen your name pop up quite a bit during the twos when we're looking at the MVP streams. What changed between this year and last year in terms of opportunities?
It started off with a bit of a headache because the ECB brought out regulations very close to the start of the year about everyone having to have a heart scan, which is obviously a very sensible and important policy, but it would have been a bit better to get some more notice with that. So that took me about the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season to sort. And so I missed out on some opportunity at the start. I then didn't get a game until I think it was like the end of May for Yorkshire. At second 11 2020, and that was just something that Tom Smith came up to me at the start of the day. He was like, look, we're hoping to give you an extended run of games. Obviously you can't ever promise anything in this world, but like, I want you to just go out there and enjoy it as much as you can, which I was really grateful for, that he took his time out of his day to basically just try and make it feel as comfortable as possible, whatnot. That game went pretty well, got 50 odd and bowled pretty nicely. And then he was like, right, want to keep you around a bit more. There's games coming up for the rest of the week. We'll let you know. And then the following day, I'm actually back working as a groundsman at Wheatwood in Leeds. And I get a phone call from Steve Mulaney. He's like, I've just been put in touch with you by Eddie Burke, coach at Lynx. Yeah. We want to play you in our games next week. I thought, hang on, so I spent like 3 years trying to get any sort of County Twos game that I get my hands on, and then before you know it, I've got 2 coaches pestering me saying we want you to play, and I thought, wow, this just can't be happening. I'm waiting for someone to tell me this is all one big joke. So for that sort of following 5 to 6 week period going up to the end of June, I was just playing for both teams. Occasionally I had to choose between playing for Notts or Yorkshire. It was pretty much all 2020s. And then when it got to the Red Bull stuff and there were clashes, I chose to play for Yorkshire, which was a good decision because it ended up getting a really big role with the ball. Took a couple 6-ers in Red Bull games, and then I was like, wow, this is going really, really well. Hopefully there's going to be some opportunities coming up. And then I just basically had to wait my time until the 100 wildcard draft came up. And if a Yorkshire spinner went, you'd hope that something might come up for me. And if a Notts spinner came up or got sold, then I'd get a go at Notts. And it turns out that the way it all unfolded was that Patterson White, Liam got a wildcard pick, and then I ended up getting a Metro Bank deal at Notts.
So like you and I then, you're a massive fan of the 100 and what the Metro Bank does to bring players into the game.
Massively. Well, I've got to thank that decision for those tournaments to be played simultaneously. It's
genuine. I mean, the 100 gets so much grief, but the one thing we can see looking outside in, and we don't have skin in the game, Hugh and I, but we can look at it and say, it gives opportunities for players like yourself, like Tom Hinley down at Worcester, Tommy Sturgis last year. We've seen Andrew Neil at Hampshire this year. Nikhil Garantler, I'm trying to think of Callum Nichols down at Glamorgan. There's been all kinds of players who've just got this opportunity that they wouldn't have got if there wasn't another tournament running at the same time.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that is one of the good things about the Metro Bank, because it's just such a diversity of players within a team. You've got lads who've, like in our team, that played Test cricket, and then guys like me who are just making their debut. So there's an opportunity to learn and put yourself out there. It's second to none, because the tournament's still of a very, very high standard, and it's just great for that ability for counties to chuck some lads in at the deep end and see who does well.
Most definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you took your chance. Obviously playing mostly as a left-arm spinner, batting, 7, 8. I think you finished averaging 22 in the Metro Bank, 11 wickets at 30. or 12 wickets to 30. And a couple of the scalps, Shan Masood, Cam Bancroft. What's it like getting those lads out when you're playing pro cricket?
It was a very nice feeling, although having them caught at mid-off and long on respectively, I can't really say that I've
doesn't say that on the scoreboard. It just says you got them out.
Yeah, exactly that. So that's definitely a nice feeling getting wickets like that. And again, like, it's a testament to the tournament, isn't it? That those guys are still going out there and playing. I think in that Leicester team, Peter Hanscom was playing as well. James Bracey was playing for Gloucester that day. So it's not playing against proper players who've got lots and lots of international experience. So yeah, it's cool to say you got them out. But it's the main thing. I think the coolest thing is that you get to play against them and see how good they are.
Yeah. And in terms of that change from Premier League, and we haven't even talked about NCCA yet, through to Metro Bank, I mean, it's the obvious question, but how much of a difference have you found in the quality of the cricket yourself? Because, as you know, we're huge advocates of Premier League cricket, huge advocates of NCCA, and then you get to the Metro Bank and first class. Is it so exponential that it's unreal, or are we right in saying there are so many players out there that could actually make that step?
I think it's, to sit on the fence, a bit of both, because like I've just mentioned, like some of the individuals that play in it are a cut above. They may be at sort of varying points in their career, but they are still sort of that noticeable ability. But because you're given a chance to be on the same field as them, you're sort of empowered to be like, well, as nice as possible. I don't really care who you are now. Like, we're on the same field. I've got a chance to play against you. You've got to deal with what I'm going to offer to you, and vice versa. So I think that, like you say, there are so many people who are out there that could be getting a go and arguably should be getting a go, and that tournament is the best place for it.
Yeah, and I think what we found fantastic is that when you see the likes of Rory Hayden, who you would have played against, I'm sure, in NCCA cricket, you know, him making the step up and seamlessly going into the bowling lineup at Derbyshire, yourself taking that step up into the Notts side and seamlessly being in there and straight away being given not just rookie contracts, but given a 2-year contract, a 3-year, I think it is, for Rory. That tells us that there's got to be a good number of players out there, even if it's not Prem, definitely at NCCA. The quality's there, isn't it?
Absolutely. Rory's a fantastic example. I think in a 3-day last year, he got me opening the batting twice in both innings for less than 10 runs across the game. So yeah, I thank Rory for that one. But yeah, you're right. I think in NCCA cricket especially, you've got so many cricketers out there who every Saturday go and dominate their league, and then on a Sunday come and play even higher cricket and still do really, really well. And again, of all ages, like, I think that program in particular is great for putting people on the map, but also being really good for forming people who are sort of 16, 17, 18. And it's in addition to maybe any county age group stuff they get in, or in addition to club cricket. But yeah, I think that, and in the Premier League system more widely, there are just so many people out there who are good enough to have the step up. I think that any recognition from the ECB in that is great, and I think the NCCA is getting the recognition that it deserves in terms of as a pathway to professional cricket. I'm very grateful that Notts and Links have a really, really good relationship.
Absolutely.
For that matter. But I think that in general, that if you had to maybe highlight any sort of area where there could be a greater relationship, it probably would be between Premier League cricket. I know we spoke briefly at Trent Bridge the other day about maybe a slight growing gap in the relationship between professional and recreational cricket, and I think it's always best the closer that they are. It's better for the game, that those two things don't get too far away, because it's great when pro cricketers come back and play Premier League cricket. I remember playing against people like Phil Sort in the Sussex League, and you think like that is just irrefutably good for the game when that happens. But I think the schedule is one factor, but I think maybe just a growing distaste towards Premier League cricket from the top over the years has meant that happens less and less. So I think that all in all, there are so many people that are good enough to be out there, and the only way that those people get spotted is through greater sort of recognition of that standard.
Most definitely.
I mean, we saw, we talk about the link in Australia is much closer, and that was, I think you saw that firsthand. I think you played against Daniel Sams in the winter. And Daniel Sams, international cricketer, playing great cricket. I don't think you really get international cricketers playing Premier League cricket on the whole. Although Gus Atkinson turned out for, who was he playing for? Sorry.
Spencer, I think.
That's it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, sorry, I'm showing myself to be an ardent follower of
absolute badger, yeah. Just going on to so you got your Metrobank deal, and then pro deal comes along. What's that like? Were you expecting that? How's that
conversation go?
Yeah.
I think it was a weird one. I was certainly much happier when I got my Metrobank deal, which sounds a bit counterintuitive, but I think because that was like the biggest sense of relief I could ever possibly imagine, because it was like, oh shit, like I've finally got here. Like, I think now no one can really take it away from me that no matter how good or bad I do in this tournament, I've been able to call myself a professional cricketer. And that was like I said, just an overwhelming sense of relief. And then when I found out that I was going to get a 2-year contract, it wasn't quite the same feeling, but I think that's mainly because my mind was switching into the practicality mode of it and really thinking, like, obviously Notts have got incredible strength with the spin department, and me being like, right, okay, now it's properly heads on time to try and get myself into that position to be playing first team cricket. Mm-hmm. And then it's only now recently that I've started to realise, I was like, oh, I'm a professional cricketer now, like that's a bit weird. Like it slowly started to sink in, whereas compared to the Metrobank, it was like, that was just like, couldn't wipe a smile off my face for a few days. Whereas now it's slowly settling in that I've got a 2-year deal.
A 2-year deal with the county champions. Yeah. I mean, it's not like you. I mean, Derbyshire, God love them. They have possibly more opportunity to work your way into the Notts side at the moment, which is just seems to be solidifying and potentially becoming a group of players that is going to possibly dominate for a few years. You've got yourself into that group.
I know, yeah. And it is something, again, that is a bit of a pinch me thing, because it is not only such a strong club at the moment, but such a historic club over the years, has won so many titles, so many T20 Blast tournaments and things like that. So, and also it's now a coaching staff that's full of people who have done it all. I think about Franksy and Steve Mulaney as well, people who've been there forever, like they're Notts through and through.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of, it's quite overwhelming when you think of it, that you're now part of a club and you could be doing the same in the next few years.
Yeah, and I think what I find fascinating is, no disrespect to anybody else who's got a contract this year, and Rory is a great friend of ours. Andrew Neil, top guy as well down there. But there's just something about Nottinghamshire. There's something about Surrey, where Nikhil Garantler's gone to. Hampshire's a new test ground, but Trent Bridge and the Oval, I mean, these are proper old school test grounds, and you can now count that as home.
I know, it was a bit weird, to be honest.
Hang on a minute, and 18 months ago, you were groundsman at Wheatwood.
I know. Well, 6 months ago.
6 months ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Is the deck gone to pieces since you left?
No, if anything, it's in safer hands now. I'm not there.
Just don't let Noah Kelly anywhere near it. That's what we say.
Yeah. It's certainly a really weird feeling. Like, it's just a ground that, if I'm being honest, I've had literally no attachment to the county of Nottinghamshire in my entire life. I don't think I ever played against them once in a national final. Mm-hmm. And even in the second team cricket that I've played over the years, it's never been against them. I think I played bits against them for uni cricket, and like when they send their twos up to play against us. But it's just a ground that I've seen on the telly, basically. Mm-hmm. And it was that way until I got called in to go to train over the summer, and I was like, oh wow, this would be a pretty cool place to call home, especially once that new pavilion's done as well. It's going to look even better.
Absolutely.
It's sinking in slowly, but I guess when I finally move in at the start of the spring next year, it will feel definitely like home then.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit purina.com/purple to learn more.
Let's get to some practicalities of being a Nottinghamshire player then. So I've got to upset you first. When do you fly off to Australia?
Monday.
Oh, unfortunately for you, there's 30 odd. Oh, you're not in Nottingham now, so you're quite lucky. There's 30 odd Blackpool players heading to Nottingham for a weekend this week. So you're actually getting away with that one. So Nottingham beware, is all we'll say. Although this will go out afterwards, but hey ho. Last winter versus this winter, how different is that going to look? How much are you going to be in touch with Nottinghamshire and having to do fitness tests and all of these bits and pieces to keep in touch through the winter versus last year, just doing your thing?
Basically, he's saying you've got to stay off the piss.
I know. Yeah, it's a hard one as well because there's some very good watering holes in Sydney that I'm going to have to, or
but
at least
very expensive watering holes. Yeah.
I think it's just going to be a winter that's more structured. I think it's the simplest way of summing it up. Like, I think to an extent, my training is going to be to my own, and thankfully, it's something that I've worked on for the past few years, trying to figure out what's good for me, and I've had to do that. Obviously, the uni system is structured, but it's structured to what you want to do. It's obviously it hasn't got the resources of a pro setup, so I've got used to figuring out my own game. Whereas now it's just going to be a case of training is very much going to be my say, but I'm going to be in constant contact with coaches, which is going to hopefully help signpost my training, and something that I'm very excited for. And then from, like you say, fitness point of view, I'm just going to now have a program that I can't really afford to miss a beat on. So that's going to keep me on my toes. And hopefully then it gets back to March, I've managed to keep myself in respectable shape and the SSC doesn't get too angry with me.
And whereabouts are you going in Australia this time? Back to Gordon?
Back to Gordon, yeah. So fly out there on Monday, and then I think I'll be there until sort of the end of Feb, and then back home for a little bit, or back to Notts for a little bit, and before we go away on our tour. But yeah, the guys at Gordon were so great to me last year. I wasn't actually the main overseas. We had Gareth Delaney from Irish cricketer there last year. He's not coming back, and the club were very keen to have me as sort of their main overseas. So looking forward to getting stuck in there. And like I say, the Sydney cricket is fantastic. It's a really, really good system. So hopefully that'll be something that.
And so they should, because you're a professional county cricketer now. So I'm hoping that negotiation was a different one all of a sudden.
Well, I actually agreed to go back. A secret that I kept from my parents for a while. In April, so way before all of this happened, end of April, I was like, I'm going back. It's the Ashes winter. I'm not
absolutely. Yeah.
There's a shocker.
Yeah.
There's a shocker. Is there going to be other Notts players in and around where you are? Because that's always a good thing to get together as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So Ben Martindale is going to be at Lane Cove. Jack Haynes is playing for St George, and then Lyndon is going to be. He's actually playing in the Wollongong league, but I think he's living sort of in the south part of Sydney. So there'll be four of us able to meet up and train together, which is good. Obviously, make sure we keep the standard high and whatnot, and make sure that we're all looking after each other.
Yeah, and I think it's that sort of camaraderie of not just English players abroad, but Notts players, and being able to work together is going to make a big difference to just being on your own and trying to run your life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll get to know each other's games much more intimately than if we were training as part of a whole squad. And then you hope that that's things that you can then help each other out on when it gets around to the UK season again. I know certainly that when I've worked with players for a long period over winter, you then become very close on the field.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's something that will help us when it gets to next year. And obviously you're going to have a championship to try and defend. So little things like that might go a long way.
Just back to your Notts stuff, there's a coach that I'm quite familiar with called Ant Motor, who's the Notts assistant coach, does quite a lot of batting work, I think, at Notts. And he's somebody that I think I've seen a lot of coaches over the last sort of 10 years or so. And he's somebody that seems to be doing things very differently, operating on a different level to other people. And the performances at Notts, people like Freddie McCann, how they've come through, Hasib Hamid, the way he's progressing. I don't know whether he's the link there. Obviously, there's other batting coaches and things like that. But have you had much time with Ant? Because I've just been blown away by his coaching techniques and styles.
Yeah, I think you're right there. He's definitely one of the best coaches I've ever worked with. And he's probably fed up with me pestering him at every available opportunity because he's also our spin coach, and the way that he coaches is a much more sort of intuitive style than any other coach. Obviously, you've got coaches out there who may be massively biomechanics focused, or coaches who are massively sort of, when it comes to spin, can be very intense and very particular. Whereas he coaches in a way that works perfectly with how I am. Like, I'm not, the more detail I get, it's probably not great for me, but then it's also getting a balance of, right, I need to know what's going on with my action in order to improve it. And he's very, like I say, the way that he communicates that is so intuitive that we get on really well. And he understands the human aspect of the game really, really well, which I think it's the hardest part of the game to master. I don't think anyone will ever master it, but he communicates with you in a way that it doesn't feel like he's your superior. It just speaks to you like a normal man, and that's a great way of coaching. And I think we're not short of fantastic coaches at Notts, but he's definitely someone that I've got on with as well as any coach really that I can think of in my time.
Yeah, I mean, his trajectory is very similar to yours. You know, he wasn't a shoo-in into the pro game, and I don't think he even started bowling spin. I can't remember whether it was his batting fired or his spin fired, one or the other. You know, and so he was a late bloomer. Came over, played for Clifton, won the Derbyshire Premier League with Clifton, and then got pro contracts on the back of that. You know, so you're obviously very, very similar in terms of play, and obviously the left arm angle.
Yeah, and I think he said that he only started bowling spin as a way to get him into the South African 19 system, or basically didn't start bowling spin until he was 18.
Wow.
And then said that he figured things out by the time he was 30, 31 that he wished he knew when he was 18, 19. And I think he makes it his life mission to tell the spinners all of these little diamonds that he's picked up. But yeah, so I didn't actually know that he played Premier League cricket in Derby. I knew that he had played for Derby and Warwickshire in his time. But so I think it's great having people like that, because if your coaching staff is solely made up of people who were geniuses on the field and never had it put a foot wrong, they wouldn't necessarily be able to sympathise with the players like myself or players like Rob Lord, who have come through at a later age and have had to really graft to get to where they are, and are going to make more mistakes than things they do right, just based on the fact that it's a very skill-based game and it's very difficult to master. Whereas if you're just being coached by people who can sympathise with that, it would be very difficult. So yeah, you're right. And that background it's very useful to have someone like that.
And talking of coaches, it would be remiss of me not to mention a guy you've already mentioned his name once. How important has that connection with Lincolnshire and Eddie Burke and the boys been over the last couple of years for you? Because we've been around Eddie a couple of times when he's been coaching with the Challengers, and he's a phenomenal coach. And you described Ant in a way that actually I can almost see Eddie exactly the same way.
Yeah, Eddie's very similar in that sort of doesn't try and bog you down with too much detail. I think he always described himself as like a facilitator, which is a great way of describing a coach. He's been great for me at Lynx, and he was very instrumental in putting me together with Notts. So for that, I'm always gonna be in debt to him. He's been around coaching for ages, so he knows his stuff, and hopefully our Lynx boys can put together a few better performances that are deserving of his coaching.
So that tells me, for people who are listening, that you still want to play for Lynx next year, but you're going to be on the doorstep, aren't you?
Yes, definitely. I think as and when the schedule will allow, I'll be trying my best to play as much as I can for Lynx, because I've got some very close mates who play there, and it's, as we've mentioned, it's a really good
your Farsley skipper.
Including my Farsley skipper, although I think he has finally hung up his minor counties boots or national counties boots, because he's literally just got married the weekend gone, and I think him and his now wife are probably not thinking driving down to Bedfordshire and Buckinghamshire is the best way to spend a weekend. But I've definitely had some great memories playing with him for Lynx, I'll be honest.
It all goes full circle, doesn't it? We see a lot of this happening, but let's cut to the chase for next season. What you look ahead to Nottinghamshire next year, coming back in March, going on the overseas trip for the tour. Is it Dubai for you guys potentially?
I'm not actually too sure.
Yeah, Dubai, Abu Dhabi,
somewhere
sunny that me and you will be very jealous about, obviously. What's your goal for next season in particular? Because I've got one question about Notts in particular, but what's your goal?
I think that my goal will be to make sure that I hit the ground running, because I think that there's a tendency, or not a tendency, but there's a risk that maybe I come back from Australia and I'm not Not entirely. I don't know. It's your first season of professional cricket, isn't it? I've had a taste of it, but realistically, it's just been 1 month playing in the One Day Cup, where whilst it's a very strong tournament, it might not have the intensity of, say, the Championship or the Blast. So I want to make sure that I come back and I'm ready, and should any opportunity to play arise, that I'm absolutely ready to take it. I think that if there were a few benchmarks to set myself, I think it would be, I want to finish the season having played all 3 formats. I think that that's achievable. Red Bull is going to be a massive test, given how well that Farhan and Liam have done over the past couple of years, not to mention Calvin as well. But I feel like that, setting myself that target would be a good way of measuring the season as a success or not.
Yeah,
I think obviously, sorry, I was just going to say, from the team perspective, I know that everyone's going to be working hard to defend that championship.
Yeah.
As well as I know that performances in the One Day Cup and the Blast were below expectations. So I know that Pete will be onto us, making sure that we are sort of fighting on all 3 fronts.
Were you involved in that party after the championship?
I actually wasn't. As I just mentioned, I was there the day Kyle hit the winning runs.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. I was carrying drinks that day, so that was a really cool thing to be a part of. And stayed for a couple of beers then. But then I was off Friday, Saturday, Sunday was Ben's wedding, and given he's one of my closest mates, I couldn't afford to miss that. But I also didn't want to feel like John Terry joining in on those Champions League celebrations, having not played the game. So I let the boys enjoy themselves, and I think they did just that, to be honest.
So Hugh, he did the opposite to Callum Turner. Callum Turner of Ormskirk, who missed his brother's wedding to play at Lord's, whereas Joe misses the championship celebrations to go to his mate's wedding. It seems to be full circle in this cricket lark at the moment. You've got to tell us, though, Joe, one thing I want to know, if there is a goal for next year. You must have a goal to get that bloody blazer at some point.
I know, it's stylish, isn't it?
When I saw Pete Moores with it on, I thought, what's going on there?
Yeah, I didn't actually know about this blazer until I was carrying drinks at Worcester. Bit of a theme here with me carrying my drinks. Hope that's not a theme for next year. Yeah, I think it's a nice touch, and I think it goes well with quite a few of the other little dressing room things that we do to make sure that people are rewarded for when they do well, when they either take a 5 or score 100.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice little touch. It's a bit competitive, make people obviously want to get their hands on the blazer. It would be good to get it myself, but I think priority is just getting in that team to start with.
Well, would I be right in saying at Nottinghamshire, one of the things I've been looking at 1 or 2 squads, shall we say, over the last couple of days, because I've got nothing else to do with my time now cricket's finished. Would I be right in saying that Notts are building what I'd class as a squad similar style to the way Surrey have, so that they can start to rotate players a little bit more? And we know there's a big conversation constantly about professional players playing too much cricket, but Surrey never seem to have a problem because they've got this big enough squad to rotate. It just feels that way with Notts now. They're just filling the squad out.
I think so. I think it's with the relentlessness of the schedule, you're silly not to try and have that depth and strength. Yeah. I know that we've got people like Lordy and Conor McCurr who both struggled with injury this year, but are more than good enough to step up and play in that championship team. I think that seam department is somewhere that any county should look to have that strength and depth, but obviously it's easier said than done. There's only so many. The seamers don't just grow on trees, do they? And I think invariably the stronger counties will be the ones that have the most depth in their steam department. I know that we had Ollie Stone, who, whilst he battled with injury most of the year, he wasn't able to get into that team at the end of the year, and he's one of the best bowlers in the country. So it sort of shows you how ridiculously well resourced we are in that department. And I think it's spot on that the stronger you are there, the more likely you are going to be, because it's a long old season and injuries are part of the course. And I think the stronger that squad gets, the more chance we'll have of keeping on winning trophies.
I know they might have wrapped Josh Tongue up in a bit of cotton wool, but were you able to face him much in the nets?
Oh, thank God, no. I managed to avoid that one. But I did at Worcester very briefly have to stand at third slip to him when I came on as a subfielder. God knows how I ended up there. But and it was a joy to watch, but it was bloody terrifying as well, because it's people speak about the raw pace, and in my time I've not really been exposed to much of it, but it's more just is that angle that he comes at. sort of the pace out of nowhere. It's not like one of those pure actions like a Brett Lee or Akhtar maybe, where you can see the ball the whole way. It looks horrible, and hopefully he stays fit for both the Ashes and full extent of next year, because he's just totally different to any bowler that's out there. And
well, is that Surrey? Obviously, the Surrey win was the big win for Notts, and that game was the game everybody in England just went, all right, this lad, because he just took that game over, didn't he?
He did, and we saw it in the Test series as well. He's just got a tendency to, when he gets wickets, doesn't just take one, but takes 3, 4, 5 wickets sometimes in a spell, and it just turns a game on its head. And sure, might be a bit more expensive in terms of economy, but you take that trade off any day of the week. That ability to turn a game like that, and it's great to see. Although we'll be trying to stay out of his way in the nets for the foreseeable.
Well, you can stay out of his way as much as you want, but I'm sure you've had to face Mr. Farhan Ahmed once or twice in the nets. But I'm going to play a little bit naughty here. You've faced Farhan. He's got a brother called Rayhan. But actually, I think the best bowler of the three is the one who you've played twos cricket with. Raheem Ahmed, I think you've played with.
Yep.
Now, how good does he look?
He's a nice bowler, and I only got to see a little bit of him. He played that twos game with us at the end of the year against Yorkshire. But I mean, I would hate to play a game of garden cricket with those guys. I think it'd be the most competitive thing around, wouldn't it?
Unbelievable, yeah.
He's certainly...
We've had this conversation.
Yeah. He's certainly falls into that category we've spoken about a lot, of banging on that door to get in. I'm not too sure how old he is. I think he's a year or two older than Rehan. So hopefully he gets his chance. Like, he bowled very well for us in that twos game, and not slow either. And that was pretty impressive at the end of the year. So hopefully he gets a chance. He swings it and he can bat as well. So pretty good package, to be honest.
Now, let's round this up with the two obvious questions that I've got to come to before we finish off, and right round to Premier League cricket. Let's start with the obvious one. Sussex Premier League, Bradford Premier League. Which one's better?
You won't believe how many times I've been asked this. I
know which one I think it is, so come on now. No sitting on this.
I've settled on an answer that the top of the Bradford League is stronger. I'd hesitate to say comfortably, but I would say it's the top of the Bradford League is stronger than the Sussex League. I think New Farnley, the national champions, would probably wipe the floor with pretty much any team in the Sussex League. However, one thing that I do like about the Sussex League is, and it probably is because of the whole pyramid is under one. There's obviously only one league in the whole of Sussex. That strength and depth, it's not like the Bradford League. Sometimes you can get teams 5 or 6 down, and then it's a bit of a formality. Whereas I think in that Sussex League, one thing that is really strong is that the games are even. There aren't really many weak teams. Like, it's always a bit of a scrap. Like, sort of 5, 6 teams are always fighting for relegation because it's so close. And then also most teams bat pretty much the whole way down. So I think on the whole, games can be more entertaining. And not to mention, I think the format in the Sussex League is miles better. I think the Bradford League format is a bit silly. I think they could do with updating that, but that's for another day. So on the whole, Bradford League better, but the Sussex League has its perks.
Okay, then Premier League versus first grade, second grade.
I think first grade's got us covered there. I think I would love to see a system where, say, I don't know, it was a London Premier League, because I think that's effectively what Sydney grade cricket is. But I think first grade is, and like we've mentioned, it's so centralised to their whole system over there.
Absolutely.
That if you do well in it, you get your performances rewarded, and people value the system, whereas I don't think there is that connection over here. So I think it would be unfair to say that Premier League cricket can compete with first graders, because that first grade side is at the top of the first grade side is very, very, very good. So I think, they've got us covered there.
Most definitely. Final question then, and it's our favourite question that we ask absolutely everybody almost week in, week out. Name someone in the Farsley side or in the Bradford League who, if you were talking to Peter Moores, if you were talking to coaches around the country, say, have a look at this guy. Is there anyone you'd go, this is someone you should have a look at?
There is actually one guy, and you'll definitely know who he is, and that's probably Aidan Langley. I think that he's someone who's basically scored 1,000 runs for about 4 years in a row. Yeah. But he also looks like he's got a technique that is so transferable to the next level. Like, it's so correct, hits the ball hard, can do it all basically. I think that when you're looking for people maybe to make that step up, you've got to think about those little details, and I think that he's got that. I think that I don't actually know. I haven't spoken to him too much about this, but I don't know if it's something he'd be interested in. But he's definitely someone that I would say, if he got given the opportunity, I'd back him to do really well.
Yeah, so would I. He's also one of the single best fielders I've seen this season. Full stop.
Yeah, totally agree. Very, very good in the field.
Most definitely. Hey, Joe, absolute pleasure to chat and talk all things Premier League, Farsley, NCCA, and obviously a lot of knots. From Hugh and I, there's only one word we could say, which is the obvious one. Congratulations, mate. You've worked hard at it and you've got that opportunity. And for me and Hugh to look from the outside in with that sort of, let's be blunt, Hugh, bit of smugness, but at the same time, just proud to see another Premier League player making that step. And we look forward to seeing what happens over the next year or two.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Sorry, Hugh. Thanks for having me on. It's been very kind, the praise you guys have given me over the past couple of years. So I really appreciate it and really, really like the work that you guys do.
Thanks a lot, mate.
Cheers, Joe.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us at the Premier League Cricket Club. We'll be back soon with more from the world of Premier League and NCCA cricket. But in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review and follow us wherever you get your socials. Or maybe check out our website, premierleaguecricket.co.uk, to stay updated. Until next time, have a good one.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
You're a guy who just wants to look nice. The kind of nice where you might get a nice compliment on the niceness of your nice new outfit. Good thing Men's Warehouse has everything from polos to jeans and, yes, suits, plus a team to help you find the perfect fit to make sure you look nice. Nice. Love the way you look. Men's Warehouse.